March. The Empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Facebook announced its plans to alter users' news feeds yet again on Tuesday in a move that will allegedly provide the right mix of updates from friends and news pages. In a post entitled Newsfeed FYI, balancing content from friends and pages, the Facebook product manager and user experience researcher lay out how media content will be altered under the site's newest algorithm. Media content is a key part of the experience for people on Facebook, and we're committed to helping publishers find the right audience for their content, the article states. A mere footnote at the end of the article also admits that the new change could negatively affect a page's reach. Earlier this month, in an article from the Columbia Journalism Review, Freedom of the Press Foundation Executive Director Trevor Timm criticized Facebook's growing power over online news. Go to Infowars.com and read Facebook changes news feed algorithm to affect media content.
Hey, how you doing, Al?
Good, brother.
Just recently started using your products. Everything you said about them's correct. Me and my wife both use a lot of them, and it's made a lot of changes in our lives here.
Well, thank you, brother. It's because it also funds our operation, but doing that, I know I've got to have the highest quality. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals.
We do the Super Male and the Super Female Vitality. Big changes, a lot of energy. We've gotten off of the cheap energy drinks, energy shots, saving a ton of money there.
Sourced from powerful organic herbs, harvested around the planet, and then concentrated for maximum potency. They want us stunned and dumbed down, and energy drinks and stuff just cover that up for a while, but then burn you out, in my experience, whereas stuff that gets your glands naturally going goes right to the source. So it's pretty exciting, and I love it. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality and other powerful products from InfoWars Life. Introducing Secret 12, the new InfoWars Life vitamin B12 formulation. Secret 12 is a binary of nutramedical grade, bioavailable coenzyme forms of B12, methylcobalamin, the same kind used in B12 injections, and adenosylcobalamin. Secret 12 is simply taken by mouth, right on the tongue, and then swallowed. No needles, no injections. Secure your revolutionary Secret 12 formula right now at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. Used since before the days of the Roman Empire to support the body's natural systems. Introducing the new InfoWarsLife.com oil of oregano formulation. We have now procured the most high quality and potent forms of oregano oil on the market. Extracted directly from the wild herb and sealed in easy-to-use capsules. You will no longer need to endure the burning of liquid oregano on the tongue. Now available in our limited first run at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
We are on the march. The Empire is on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host, and joining us from the UK is Paul Joseph Watson. We were just talking about and playing in the last segment the clip with Robert Downey Jr. being interviewed in the UK. Immediately, the guy comes out, starts asking him whether he's a conservative or a liberal. At the very beginning, Paul, he said, yeah, I appreciate your point of view. In other words, like he knew exactly what this guy was doing. And then he tries to walk this back and says, hey, you know, you can have opinions. And they change over a period of time, but the guy just kept coming and coming. And as you point out, you need to be a overt liberal to work in Hollywood. It works against your career very much so if you they think that you're conservative or libertarian. I think it was interesting, Paul, the WikiLeaks posting of these Sony emails. The logo that's at the very top of the posting is, and there you can see it right now if you're watching. It shows Sony, and of course Sony has the Marvel rights, and it was Robert Downey Jr. was promoting the Avengers 2, another Marvel film, but Sony has the rights to Spider-Man. And so they show Spider-Man, and he's lifting up his mask, and instead of a face, what you see is the donkey logo from the Democrat Party, because that's what these emails show, Paul. They show that the Sony Corporation has worked intimately with the Obama administration on issues like SOPA, TPP, the Transatlantic Partnership, also promoting with the interview the assassination of the North Korean president. And they worked very closely, Paul, to get Obama elected, releasing Zero Dark 30, portraying Obama as being this decisive, heroic leader who took out Osama bin Laden days before the election, and promoting his torture programs in the process. Your comments, Paul? Hey, Paul? Okay, we don't have Paul. I think we've lost Paul on the feed there, guys.
I can hear you now, David.
Okay, go ahead, Paul. Your comments.
Yeah, the whole tone of this interview was accusatory. It was about shaming Robert Downey Jr. into admitting, God forbid that he's a conservative. And why that's important is because we know that Hollywood has vast influence over the minds of millions of Americans. That's why the CIA, the US Army, gets involved with these Hollywood blockbusters, in many cases vets the scripts of top Hollywood films, because they know the influence that it wields culturally and in a narrative sense over the minds of millions of Americans. So it's, Steven Crowder wrote, quote, "Culture is upstream from politics, and liberals know it. They have to protect and maintain their territory in Hollywood. People with dissenting viewpoints must be snuffed out. They don't want libertarians or conservatives who have influence in Hollywood and over their fans." I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is huge at the moment. He's in the Avengers. He's in Iron Man. They don't want those kind of people with that influence influencing the millions of Americans who watch their movies with differing political viewpoints than the standard progressivism that the usual Hollywood set propagates. And we know this because in LA, there's this secret underground, almost secret society network of 2,000 people, a lot of actors, other people who work in Hollywood, who are conservatives but have to hide their political beliefs so as to maintain getting work in Hollywood. And that was revealed by Victoria Jackson, a former Saturday Night Live cast member. She revealed that to the Huffington Post in 2012. And then, of course, you had James Woods saying that he would never get work again as a result of criticizing Obama. So literally in Hollywood, there are libertarians and conservatives that have to conceal their political viewpoints because they know they won't get work. They will be discriminated against for not towing this leftist narrative.
Yes, exactly. And we've seen, as we pointed out earlier this week, these revelations of the Sony emails. I mean, first when we saw it in regards to the interview, we saw the State Department and the RAND Corporation actively working with Sony saying, yeah, we need to put out this narrative. We need to show the assassination of Kim Jong-un so we can get that into the mindset of the South Koreans. And we know that those those DVDs will go across the border into South Korea. We can establish that with the South Koreans as well. And we see all of this tight coordination between Sony and the Obama administration, not only just to get Obama reelected, but also to push their agenda. I think it was interesting when Robert Downey Jr. said, wait a minute, are we promoting a movie here? He said that in the interview, and that's the thing. People need to understand how the movies are being used to program us. And I think that's one of the valuable things we can get from looking at these Sony emails that have leaked out. Of course, one of the other things is the upcoming movie about Ed Snowden. That's going to be done by Sony. And they just edited the press release just this last week to say, well, don't say that they're criminally spying on people. Just say that it's controversial. Don't say that they're bugging people. Just say that they did various actions. I mean, they really toned that down in it. I think, Paul, when we look at Marvel Studios, they've done a much better job. I look at Captain America, Winter Soldier. I can't imagine that movie being made, for example, by Sony. I mean, they expose Operation Paperclip. They're critical of ideas that have been put forward in the surveillance state, the criminal surveillance state, and look at the consequences of where this could all go to. I don't see that coming out of any of the mainline Hollywood studios. I think that's one of the reasons why Marvel Studios has been so successful.
Yeah, and I think there's been a noticeable shift in Hollywood and in the movie industry. 10 years ago, in the few years after 9/11, there was a huge emphasis on statism and surveillance being good and everything being for the greater good. Over the past 5, 6, 7 years, I think we've kind of seen that shift, like you mentioned with Captain America and other movies, where drones are not seen as a positive force and surveillance is not always seen as a positive force, and we can't always trust the government. So there's been a shift, but there are still, for example, sitcoms. A lot of the propaganda is now more in sitcoms. We had a story a couple of months ago, a Comedy Central sitcom, I can't remember the name, but they had one of the main characters sitting there reading a website with a crazy headline, something about Elvis and Michael Jackson, I can't even remember. But the design of the website was a mirror image almost of Infowars.com. And then obviously Alex talked about the other movie, which completely failed. Again, I forget the name of it. I haven't watched it, where the guy's up ranting about, you know, Jews and the N-words and saying, I'm an Alex Jones listener. So, you know, we still see some of that propaganda, but in general, I think it's starting to shift in the movie industry where more pro-liberty, anti-surveillance messages are being put through. And obviously they're very concerned about it, which is now why they're trying to shame people for holding libertarian viewpoints.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, especially in the Captain America franchise, and I think it's going to take on a life of its own. Next year they have the Civil War series. That's where Captain America is headed. This conflict between Iron Man, who represents the military-industrial complex, and Captain America, who represents the America that used to have a rule of law, the America that used to respect civil liberties and the Constitution. And so that's going to be a very interesting story narrative as it's developing. So I don't know, this particular one that's coming up next week, it may just be a popcorn movie, but it may have some of those themes in it. I think they've got so many different superheroes in it, they probably won't get into anything very deep like they do in the Captain America series. But again, I think that you're not going to see that kind of thing coming out of Sony. Out of Sony, you're going to see direct programming. So it kind of makes me wonder. I know Oliver Stone is a pretty opinionated director. He's got his own ideas about how he's going to do things. I wonder if there's going to be a big conflict between Sony and Oliver Stone as he does this Ed Snowden movie. We've already seen how they've censored the press release for it.
Well, of course, there was already an Ed Snowden documentary released, yes. I believe it was late last year, early this year, called Citizen 4, which was excellent because it just told the story of basically what he went through and what happened. It wasn't, you know, dramatized or anything like that. And that was a really good documentary / film. So, you know, Oliver Stone is obviously he's quite an extreme leftist, but in terms of surveillance, I think he's probably a good ally. So if he's behind it, I would expect it to be of quite high quality. Yeah, I think he's pretty much in the same position as we are in terms of being alarmed at what our government is doing in terms of destroying the rule of law, in terms of dragnet surveillance. Let's talk about this other article that you've got up. Marines conduct riot control drill. Tell us a little bit about that, and we'll play that video after you set it up. Yeah, this was another drill, yet another drill. We've seen a spate of these in recent weeks out of Virginia, where they're basically training at the Naval Weapons Station in Yorktown, Virginia, again, to take on angry protesters. It shows Marines with batons, pepper spray, and rifles going toe-to-toe, basically, with these protesters who are throwing objects at them. And the interesting thing about this is the Marines themselves released the video. This is quite a high-quality production. And again, they say, this is only for overseas operations, yet they're releasing the video for the consumption of the American public. Yeah. If this is just a private training course, a drill, for preparation for overseas combat, why do they feel the need to put it on the internet in the first place? What kind of message does that send? Right. So, let's make it clear that the U.S. military has never operated in terms of like on the ground, in the streets, troops to control riots whenever they occupy a country. And we go in like just as the British military would do, just as the Romans would do. They get local people to do that. That's why we have the Iraqi police that they created, that they trained. So they're going to go in and they're going to not use Marines to do this kind of thing when they go into an occupied country. They're going to get some citizens who will work as police for them to do this. So this is something that they're doing to train here for America, and we should be very, very concerned that this is something that's being done by the Marines. This is not even the National Guard. I mean, we just saw the National Guard in this Richmond, California exercise, and they said it was a dirty bomb exercise. The people who videotaped that and reported on that said they didn't see any exercises where people were being helped. Merely they had crowd control exercises, and of course there was that person that we got a videotape of, they sent to us.
He started saying that I'm a sovereign citizen. You don't